right?
And Duque, yeah.
And Duque.
Damn it, how do I? Okay, well, I'm ready. Let's make
I'm
the
ready.
magic happen.
Let's take,
Are our heads aligned correctly? Good.
uh, did you tweet something out, Omar? I forgot to tweet something out.
I
No.
did tweet something out just recently, my last tweet. But it says 10-minute warning, and I don't want to
Okay.
move again.
I got it. I got it. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I'll just say, here we go. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. All set.
The Miami Dolphins have gotten off to a slow start this season, losing the season's first two games to the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. Unlike last year, which featured quite a few blowouts to start the season, these games were close, but Miami hasn't managed to finish the deal. Last Sunday, the Dolphins had a fourth quarter lead against the Bills before the defense wilted in the closing minutes, allowing 14 points in the final 10 minutes in the 31-28 loss. What about these games is surprising you, Dave? And what about them have disappointed you so far?
I'm like everybody else. You came into this year, you spent big money on veteran defensive players. I thought the defense would win games. It's losing games. That's a big surprise to me.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of I think the adjustment right now is they're still getting adjusted to the offense. You're still trying to get into a rhythm. You're trying to figure out what you're doing in a run game. Defensively,
Excuses, Omar. Excuses. Come on. Everybody's doing that on every team, right?
that is true. But if you look, the teams like the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks, the teams that have continuity and consistency, those are the teams that have hit the ground running. And you know, the healthy teams, I know New Orleans suffered a loss last week, but you know, they lost their top wide receiver. So I think the healthy teams and then the veteran teams are the ones that are doing well. Look at Buffalo. They didn't make that many changes last offseason, and boy, they look like the hottest team in the NFL right now.
They were without two of their top three defensive players. New England, 8 new starters, including at quarterback. Nobody knew what to expect from Cam Newton. So, yes, I agree that Dolphins have had a lot of changes, but I thought with their veteran players on defense that I thought they'd be better. Simple as that.
Those veteran players have to be good, and so far they haven't, Dave. Let's get to our first question that comes from John. After 2 games, are the media and the fans being too hard on Miami considering it's year 2 of a rebuild in the middle of a pandemic with no preseason or typical offseason? This sounds like a question written by Jason Jenkins.
Okay. Wow, this is the big leagues, okay? You get judged by how you play in the big leagues, all right? And I get everything he's saying. I don't think anybody expected them to be Super Bowl contenders in year 2 of the rebuild. But at 0-2 and the way they've lost, you're looking at the end of the season if they drop Thursday. You might as well start looking into next year at that point. So
mighty premature, Dave.
Too hard? Let's put it on the line, Omar. You go 0-3, and you have is this a team that's going to come back from 0-3 and contend for a playoff spot? I'm not saying even make a playoff, much less make a run. No one expected that. So I think expectations to start the year, at least my expectation was 7-9, but I thought they'd go 2-2 to begin the year.
Still got 7 more games to go, Dave. This stuns me. Dave's ready to throw in the towel on the season after 3 games. I mean, tell me the game that they were predicted to win. Even Jacksonville going up there Thursday night, not predicted to win again.
Omar, Jacksonville. We'll get into this. Jacksonville was considered going into the year the worst team out there, right?
Yeah, everybody thought they were tanking, including me.
Yeah, Well, let's get into that. 'Cause
Disagrees.
Our next question comes from Mac, and he says, as fans, oh, excuse me, this is getting into the defense, but we'll get, as fans, did we overrate the effectiveness of this defense based on free agents added in the offseason?
That's a good question because right now the defense in the first two games has not performed up to expectations. Primarily, it's the front seven. They've struggled to stop the run, okay, and then when they did better against stopping the run against Buffalo, they gave up 417 yards and 4 touchdown passes. Right now, they're trying to figure themselves out, and they've got a couple of injuries. Kyle Van Noy with the hand injury. Shaq Lawson's got a hip injury. Emmanuel Ogba's got a nagging injury. Byron Jones isn't going to play this game because of a growing injury and an Achilles heel issue. But is the talent there to win games? Absolutely, if they can get pressure. And so far in the first two games, I don't see any pressure. It doesn't matter what kind of caliber you have in your secondary. If the quarterback gets to hold on to the ball forever and the receivers get to run, scramble ball and get open, it's going to be hard to play defense all game. So I think they've got to get somehow they got to find a way to apply more pressure on the quarterbacks, and that comes from the defensive line.
Completely agree with you. That to me was the number one problem in Buffalo, the pass rush, and in New England, the run, and it starts up front with the front, 4, 5, 6, 7, depending on what you're doing. Last week it was everything. It was the pass rush. It was in the fourth quarter. To me, it was Xavier Howard. He drops an interception to win. That could have, really gone a long way towards winning the game. And he blows the coverage that gives Buffalo the game-cementing touchdown. So, I get that they had injuries and all that, but you need your best player to be playing his best. And that, and we can get into coaching, of course. They just didn't have any answers across the board on adjustments when Buffalo was going and they had the injury. To me, the adjustment wasn't putting Xavier Howard onto Stephon Diggs, because John Brown blew you up for nearly 150 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, and he's a very good receiver. So it's more giving, some bracketing, maybe Stephon Diggs or something like that, rather than just playing man-to-man against him.
They were hitting you with crossing routes. So no matter what, and that's what people don't understand, no matter what, the opposing team makes adjustments as well. And I thought that they had a very brilliant game plan in Buffalo. They killed Miami with crossing routes, and that negates your press one coverage. And
especially when you're not pressing, there's no contact at the line. They're not holding them up. Buffalo pretty much got free release, which surprised me too much.
Our next question comes from Alex. How did Myles Gaskin get to the number 1 tailback spot?
2 things. One, Jordan Howard, 13 carries, 11 yards. That's number 1. And number 2, Myles Gaskin's been pretty good, 5.1 yard average. That's pretty good. Now, Myles Gaskin's proved he's an NFL player. Is he your lead running back? Is he the guy you want as your lead running back? Look, right now the Dolphins, are 27th in the league in rushing, I believe, 93 yards a game. That's not great. So
better than it was last year.
Okay. It's not. Look, all kudos to Myles Gaskin. He's made a role for himself. He's playing well, and maybe it'll be a expanded role as the season goes on. But you also have to wonder what happened to Jordan Howard. He was coming in as a power back. Didn't he average, I believe, 5 yards a carry roughly in Philadelphia last year. So
this is interesting, and I it's a very good experiment for me because it follows through with a couple of things and theories that I pretty much have about this Dolphins team. The first theory is Brian Flores plays guys who excel during the week. That's just been consistent from season 1 to where we are now. And as people who followed this show and followed my tweets, Myles Gaskin was killing it in training camp. He was my number 1 back in training camp. And what I like about Brian Flores is if you perform in practice, you will get the opportunity to perform in games. They will carve out a role for you. And right now, this is my second theory that it falls into. Myles Gaskins is the spread package running back. And just so happens to be that Miami goes to their spread package when they're trailing, which they've been in every single game except for a couple of minutes. And they also go to the spread package is just the package that I think Chan Gailey's the most comfortable in. So by default, Myles Gaskin is the guy who's stepping up and actually performing in that package. Now, do they need to get their I formation and power run packages going? Absolutely. But I think that comes with consistency and continuity that you develop on the offensive line. Right now, the offensive line's got no chemistry. They've got no mojo. And until they get it, I don't think we'll see the best of Jordan Howard.
Yeah, and look, we talk about the defensive line being an issue. I'm going to give the offensive line some time. They're not losing the games. They're not a weapon, but you didn't expect them to be with all the moving parts there and everything that has to come together. 2 rookies starting. So, that's the one area that you say, okay, I'm going to give that one some time.
And an interesting nugget of information: the offensive line has given up 4 sacks so far in the first 2 games. 2 of them to Eric Flowers, 1 of them Jesse Davis, and Solomon Kinley gave up the other one. So you got 3 sacks from the veteran players on the offensive line, which is pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, the twist to that stat though is Ryan Fitzpatrick had the least time, or he threw it the least last week. 2.17 seconds, I believe it was, according to Next Generation Stats. So he got rid of the ball quickly. So when you do that, obviously you're not going to take a lot of sacks. While neither unit is playing well in the first 2 games, the Dolphins' defense seems to be the root of this team's struggles. As Miami couldn't stop the run in the season opening loss to New England. And then we saw what happened against Buffalo. They Josh Allen, 417 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Omar, what's wrong with Miami's defense now?
Well, to me, it really comes down to the fact that they could not pressure quarterbacks. Now, the interesting caveat about this issue that we're having is their first 2 quarterbacks happen to be the biggest, most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. Josh Allen and Cam Newton. So you got to play them a little bit differently in terms of pass rushing. You can't all out blitz them. You got to keep them in front of you. You got to keep them contained in the pocket, or at least try to keep them contained in the pocket. So you haven't really seen them throw the kitchen sink at a quarterback, and you haven't really seen these defensive ends go all out, on a beeline to the quarterback. Now, you'd like to think so. Maybe they got on 3rd down, but you still had to have rush lane discipline and integrity with these 2 particular quarterbacks that they face. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they play the same way against Gardner Minshew, and he's still also got a little bit of scrambling ability. So right now, you got to get more pressure on these quarterbacks. No matter what you got going on in the secondary with Xavier Howard or Byron Jones or Nick Needham or Noah Igbenogany, you cannot have these cornerbacks covering all day. You can't give quarterbacks 4.7 seconds to throw the ball. You got to tighten that window for them and sort of try to force them to throw passes before they're ready to. And that's just not happening right now.
Yeah, and you knew in free agency what they did. They just trolled the waters and hoped they got they got a couple decent. You look at the career stats of Shaq Lawson, Emmanuel Ogbah, decent stats, and the hope is in free agency when they do, they're going to take a step up. It's only been 2 weeks. No one's making conclusions, but the scary thing is you've seen this before. Free agents come here and not just here, elsewhere. It's a 50-50 position on free agents.
Happens here a lot.
You hope that maybe you can hit 60 or 70%, and through 2 games, that's not the case.
Yeah, Robert Quinn struggled here, looked like he was done, then went to Dallas and had a career year. You just never know.
Explain that one, Omar. Explain that one. Or explain this one. Byron Jones, 79 out of 80 games in Dallas he played. He only didn't play his last game there when he had an ankle injury. And, last game of the last season when he's going to free agency, ankle injury, meaningless game, he sat it out. So he plays 79 straight games for Dallas. He comes here second game, right at the start of the game, he's out with an injury. I mean, we got to give that one to bad luck, right? Can we do that?
Yeah, that's a bad luck. I watched him struggle during training camp, and I thank God he's injured, because if that was what you paid for, woo, it's gonna be a bad signing. So let's hope that he gets healthy, plays back to the level that he had in Dallas. But that's something that we need to watch and monitor right there. But young guys like Nick Needham and Jamal Perry and Noah Igbenogany, they got to step up, because you got to play a little bit better. You can't give up what they gave up against the Bills. Mark has our next question. Is the lack of big plays and turnovers on defense on the players or on the coaches?
Yes. Yes, it's on everybody. You can find fault right now. Look, how could they put a rookie cornerback, his second game of the year, against Stephon Diggs one-on-one? I mean, come on. He needs help. All right.
I can give you the reasoning why. I can give you.
I get the reasoning why, but you know that's not smart, right? You know you're
No, I'm trying to use Xavier Howard to take away the guy and try to bracket and help with Stephon Diggs. Now, obviously, it didn't work.
Right from play one, he drags across the middle, and there's no bracket, there's no help. It's just the rookie chasing him, and then that there's too much of that. They needed to adjust their game plan when Byron Jones went out, and they didn't have the two shutdown corners. Let's face it, the whole defense is based on that. I get it. It was a problem. And they really didn't adjust very well.
To me, it starts with the players, and not just the players that are new, who are still trying to get adjusted and learning this scheme, but the returning players. We need to see Davin Godchaux and Christian Wilkins step up and play up to the NFL level. Right now, I would struggle to say that either of them are good NFL starters. Based on what we've seen their entire careers, they're just okay. Jerome Baker, he's right now one of the top leading tackle producers in the NFL, but I need impactful plays. And same thing against Xavier Howard. You know, I have a high standard for Xavier, as do you. He's not all the way back and all the way healthy, but that interception he should have been able to pull down. And then Bobby McCain, we can't have coverage breakdowns. That's why you're back there. You're the brains and the brains of the operation in the secondary, and you got to deliver.
All right, Omar, I'm gonna throw this one to you. Matt Ferreira has a good one. Should the Dolphins pick up Cam Wake?
You know, if you're going to say what's the number one issue about the Miami Dolphins so far this season, the answer has to be the lack of pass rush. Okay, well, there's a 35-year-old veteran out there who we don't know how much he's got left in his career, but the one thing we do know is he can pressure quarterbacks. And so I say it makes sense. It does make sense, especially from the standpoint you allow Wake to come home and retire in the career that he started. Sort of like a Jason Taylor situation where, you know, you get to come back home and finish your career where it started. Now, is Wake ready to play 900 snaps a season? Absolutely not. But I think he can give you 15 good situational pass rushes. And right now, you're not getting that from Emmanuel Ogbah. You're not getting that from Shaq Lawson. So why not?
Yeah, the question is, are you ready to throw in the towel on and admit you made mistakes? You start teams that make big changes, and I'm not saying Wake's a huge change if they would go after him, but, you know, 3, 4, 5 big trades, big signings, they're admitting they made mistakes in the offseason and they're scrambling. And are they ready to throw in the towel on these guys that they spent a lot of money on? So
they are one injury at defensive end away from this season being horrendous. One injury. Shaq Lawson, Emmanuel Ogbah, they're not even doing well now, but one injury away from this season being done. So at some point, you got to call in reinforcements. Jason Strowbridge has been inactive for the first 2 games, but anybody hoping that this North Carolina product that the Dolphins drafted in the 3rd day is going to come in and rescue the season, you're sadly mistaken. It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen, Omar says. All right. Let's go with Rob Budd asks, what can we do to stop the run? The Dolphins spend all of that money on the back end. They can't do their job being gutted every game.
I think they did a little bit better against the run against Buffalo, but then again, I would argue to you Buffalo doesn't have much at running back to offer. To me, it starts with a 5-2 front. You already play two linebackers every down. I'm moving Kyle Van Noy into the inside linebacker spot, playing next to Jerome Baker, and then I'm putting five defensive linemen. I'm putting Raekwon Davis right in there at nose. I'm pairing him with Godchow and Wilkins, and then I'm putting two ends on the field in terms of Agba and Shaq Lawson. If that can't stop the run, then nothing can stop the run.
Well, it'll be interesting. It'll be. We're talking about the pass rush, pass defense. After week one, we were talking about the run defense, and here comes Jacksonville. That's not great at either, but pretty good at both. Okay, they're 12th in the league in rushing. The rookie James Robinson out of where's he out of? Illinois State. Illinois State averaging 5.1 yards a carry. I mean, that's, for a lead back, that's not bad. He's 82 yards a game, I think, is average the first two games. So that's going to be the question. That this defense has broken down both ways in the first two games. And Jacksonville, where are they going to initially attack? That will be, maybe they'll try both and see what works.
Our next question comes from S Wade 99, who wants to stump us. Dave, are you ready for this? What do you see from a defensive line that causes the same struggles each year at the point of attack on the line of scrimmage? And what do you think the Dolphins need to do personnel-wise to fix it, Dave?
I see what he did there, though, Omar. I see what he did. For years, we've been talking those same words about the offensive line. He changed the offensive line to the defensive line this year, right? Because now, look, both lines have been a problem, right, for years. Okay, now the offensive line, you got to give it time. They threw a lot of resources in it. My question coming into the year was, do they have enough to up the middle to stop a power running game? And I thought we might see it out of New England. Instead, you got Cam Newton running all over the place. And now they aren't even defending the edges well when they've had to with these defensive ends. So when you talk about the point of line of attack and what the problem is, I mean, we're always going to get back to in questions like this. The general manager, Chris Greer, is he addressing the problems well enough? Okay, there were holes. I mean, that's what it ultimately comes back to.
There's been a ton of resources put, especially this year, into the trenches. We're starting to see improvement on the offensive line. I thought we would see improvement on the defensive line, but right now, no pass rush, no edge setting. It's just a disaster. And at this point, I'm ready for some personnel changes. I don't understand why we don't see Zach Sealer.
What's the story with him? He had some good games at the end of last year, and I haven't, I haven't heard a good answer as to why he fell off this year.
I think at this point, maybe you got to lessen the snap count for Godchow and Wilkins and get in Raekwon Davis and Zach, and maybe rotate a little bit more because something is not clicking there in terms of, I've always blamed it on the edge setting, but are Wilkins and Godchow, would they start for half of the teams in the NFL right now?
They haven't shot. I agree. Coming out of last year, though, to bank that they were going to make big steps with Wilkins, he's a first-round pick. You'd hope, and you saw in the New England game, he had some plays. Okay, I'm not saying consistent.
Wilkins had some plays too.
Right. They need to make more plays. I'm not disagreeing there.
Most in the NFL felt that the Jacksonville Jaguars were tanking this season in pursuit of Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Tank for Trevor? But they began the season with a win over the Colts and then suffered a close loss to our beloved Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. To go Tannehill. Not bad for
your heart's not into that no more. Not into that.
I'm faking it till I make it, Dave. I just keep waiting for that moment where he's
you're gonna pounce all over him when he has a bad game. Whenever that happens.
Hey, props to him because, hey, those 8 years that Miami invested in him, they're paying off for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, yeah.
Not, but basically, the Jacksonville Jaguars, not bad for a team that traded away Nick Foles, Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, lost a number of free agents in the offseason. Jalen Ramsey, traded away Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, has kept the Jacksonville Jaguars seemingly afloat, Dave?
I'm at a loss to explain this one, Omar. I thought they were far and away the worst team coming into this season. So, I mean, you have to go with Doug Maroney. He's kept them, not only afloat, but playing hard. And Gardner Minshew. I mean,
yeah,
19
man.
20 in his first game against and maybe he's going to fight Trevor Lawrence for that job. He's already competing against Trevor Lawrence, saying you're not going to get it. And I think Detroit and both New York teams are worse, far worse than Jacksonville right now.
You're right. I definitely agree with you. Both New York teams are far worse. Maybe Gase is tanking for Trevor if he could survive that. I'm not sure he's going to make it to the end of this season.
When he matures, he'll be fine.
I keep telling you, Dave, when he matures, he's going to be a good head coach. Now, has he matured yet, Dave?
I loved. Let's take a little here. I loved when this week he was asked. He goes, "The players just need to execute." Meaning the plays are fine. The players just need to execute my plays. We heard that so often.
His plays are genius. It's just the execution. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to make it to the end of this season. But one guy that
this season at this rate. All right, Omar. Chase has a good one. Okay, will the Dolphins secondary be able to make Minshew mania into Minshew misery?
I don't know about that, Dave. Byron Jones, I doubt he's going to play. He's got that growing issue. He's got that Achilles issue. He needs rest because he doesn't look that good. And really, it's about Xavier Howard playing up to the level of his talent. I stand by my claim that he is not 100% healthy. I know what Xavier Howard looks like when he's 100% healthy, and there's a tremendously fast break on the ball when it's in the air. You're not seeing that right now. And then you got Noah Igbenogany. Man, I have never seen a guy baptized by fire more than I've seen. I can't name a rookie who was just slaughtered, sent to the slaughterhouse like him. You got to hope that he grows, that his confidence doesn't waver, and he seems to be a very resilient young man, very hardworking. There's a lot of praise about his makeup. So I think he's going to have a bounce-back game. And then my superstar, Nate Needham. I call him superstar going back to last season when Coach Flores was challenging him, saying that, hey, he's had a couple of good games. He can't start feeling like a superstar. Well, Nick, the undrafted rookie from last year, who ended up starting 11 games, he struggled in the slot last week. I want to see him get an opportunity to redeem himself, maybe even put him out at the boundary, have a rotation, and let Jamal Perry come in. But, yes, they're going to need better play because Minshew Mania is about spreading the ball around and keeping plays alive with his scramble ball ability, and that's dangerous to any secondary.
Do you consider moving Bobby McCain into the slot, Omar? Or are we so far down the road from that we can't go back?
You know what? Before I do that, I would consider moving Eric Rowe to the boundary for a couple of snaps or playing Eric Rowe in the nickel. Eric Rowe has played nickel going back to his second year with the Patriots. He's a little bit big, so he probably needs a bigger nickel receiver. But if you put him in that quarterback rotation, I think he could get some decent snaps, lower everybody's snap count. Maybe they perform at a higher level. But I don't move Bobby McCain yet, but it's definitely something that I would consider.
All right, Preston has our next question. It's very obvious. We're not a playoff caliber football team, so why not play Tua now to give him more experience before next season? I'll let you handle this to start off.
I wish I could let Saf handle this. I think Tua will have his opportunity. In the second half of the season, if the Dolphins are not in playoff contention, let's say they're 2-4 or they're 3-6, I think you're going to see them unleash Tua. Right now, I was thinking about this because, other rookie quarterbacks are getting in there and they're doing and having a good deal of success. Justin Herbert played against the Kansas City Chiefs and took them to overtime. And I know a lot of Dolphin fans are kind of disappointed they're not going to be able to get to see Tua. And I will make 2 points to you. First, while I know he's not on the injury list, I've always said, and I still stay committed to it, I don't want to put him at risk until 365 days from that hip procedure because I fear him suffering another injury and then we lose him again for an extended period of time.
That random line in the sand, 365. What 330?
I mean, I'll consider once we get to 310, I'll reconsider my position.
Okay.
Let's get to 310.
I'm going to say this: if they go 0-3, Omar, and you're looking to next year at that point. You're not looking to continue. You're not going to go 10-3 to end the year with this team. Okay, so looking to next year, and I love to watch Ryan Fitzpatrick. All right, I get it. He's funny. He's a great leader.
Don't do it, Dave.
But at some point, and 0-3 is the point. It's a head coach's decision to say, is Tua ready? Okay, they see him in practice because I'm ready to put him in the lineup if he's ready at that point because you're moving on to next year and these other rookies have shown and other rookies before them getting them out there and get them running and I'm fine with it at that point. If they go 0-3
and struggle city, I will say this. While I am intrigued and excited to see Tua, I'm a patient man and want him to slow cook as I want all rookie quarterbacks to slow cook. I don't believe in sticking a quarterback in the microwave and then expecting to have a delicious meal. I want him to learn, get comfortable. Right now, I'd guesstimate that he's probably comfortable with 30 plays. I want him to be comfortable with 60 plays because you know what happens after when you're only comfortable with 30 plays and they put you out on that field? You have success for about the first 3 games. Then defenses get a book on you and they get a book on how they should play you. And then you start to see struggles. Right now, I can tell you by week 5, you're going to see Joe Burrow struggle a little bit because there's going to be a book on him. I want Tua to play later on in the year.
You know what I'd be interested in? You look at how Don Shula handled Dan Marino. All right, now David Woodley was a starter, not a great starter, but he brought Marino in relief in the second half. Two or three times.
Yeah.
Before giving him his start in week 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to see how Brian Flores handles. There's a lot of ways to handle this, and not necessarily starting him, but putting him in for a quarter or something like that.
You know who brought that thought to my mind? Yesterday, I had the pleasure of seeing our man Cliff, security guard of the Sun Sentinel, and he said, "How about playing Tua for a series of 2?" And I thought to myself, that doesn't sound like a bad idea.
You look how Marino was brought into the games essentially because David Woodley was struggling, but at the same time he played a half. He didn't start the next game. I think he skipped a game and then he played.
Ooh, what happened there?
And then and he started and he never came out of the lineup for about 17 years. But there's a lot of ways to handle this besides saying, does he start or doesn't he start?
I agree with you. I remember when I covered Florida State, Bobby Bowden, this was back in the day when Florida State was, a juggernaut and a winning machine. He played his second quarterback for the first series of the second half. That would be his series, and it was Dan Kendra. And Dan Kendra had his package, and he played his package, and he drove his team down the field for as long as his package worked. Right now, I would feel comfortable and okay with the Tua package. I know I don't want him to play till 365 days. But if you feel like it's that close and you want to get him on the field to sort of get his feet wet, I don't know if I would object to a package per game. I honestly don't. Makes some sense. Thanks, Cliff.
right, Omar. Daniel asked, should the Dolphins trade for a good receiver?
You know,
We're getting trade questions in week 2. That's never good.
yeah, I mean, considering the health and durability of that receiver unit, I'm not necessarily certain I'm willing to say it's a bad idea. Even though guys like Allen Robinson, who is with the Chicago Bears, he's an okay receiver. I don't think he's better than Devontae Parker or Preston Williams, but he would add some value to this receiving core and a little bit of durability. But the way we're seeing Mike Gesicki step up right now, and I have come to terms. I have seen the light. I'm going to let go of Mike Gesicki, the tight end. I will no longer refer to him as a tight end because he's not a tight end. And he hasn't been a tight end for quite a while now, probably the second half of last season. Mike Gesicki is a flex. He's a slot receiver. He's an H-back. You don't see Mike Gesicki work on the line. And as a slot receiver, as a flex weapon, he's pretty good. He's probably, it's a difficult matchup. Are you going to put a cornerback on him? Are you going to put a safety on him? Are you going to put a linebacker on him? There's disadvantages to anything that you do. So, if you don't have an Eric Rowe type player, he's probably going to struggle. They're probably going to struggle against him. So, as long as he's delivering and Devontae Parker continues with his vow of I'm not missing any more games, which is what he said this week. Do you believe him, Dave?
I believe he thinks that. I mean, you like that optimism, but
yeah.
Listen, you never know. I mean, that's predicting injuries. That's predicting other things. So, I mean, who knows? And as far as Gesicki, it's interesting. Look, George Kittle, he's not a blocking tight end either. He's a get in the way tight end. He'll be an obstacle for a defender, but he's not a blocker. And yet,
Gesicki isn't even a get in the way tight end.
Well, he needs to do that, but he's shown that he can be a weapon. Now, can he be a consistent weapon? Can he, change games? We'll see. But that's a nice step forward for Mike Gesicki that he started to make at the end of last year.
And you can see Ryan Fitzpatrick wants to get him more and more involved. Gesicki and Isaiah Ford are Ryan Fitzpatrick's pet projects. They're his favorite guys. So it'll be interesting to see if we can see continued development.
Let me say one other thing. He did it against Buffalo. They took advantage of great Dolphins, and to their credit, Buffalo was with down 2 linebackers. They took advantage of that, and Gesicki was Exhibit A in that. And again, to their credit, but you need to see that consistently against starting linebackers and all that.
And we get to our final question, which comes from Musing of Cody J. Do you see enough from Chan Gailey against the Bills to believe in his play calling?
I don't have any problem with the play call. You're seeing variety. You're seeing them look at matchups and go like the Gesicki. And let's face it, him and Ryan Fitzpatrick are on the same wavelength. The odd thing of this whole year is it seems like Gailey came back in good part because Fitzpatrick was here. And now he said that. I know. And he wasn't thinking of coming out of retirement. It wasn't in his mind, he said, but, it was in good part because Fitzpatrick's here. Now, if they go 0-3 again, I'm going to say we're moving down the road.
0-3? You can't even wait for them to get smacked against the Seattle Seahawks?
That's actually a good landing spot for Tua to come in, whether starting or portion of the game.
That's a hell of a first start, Dave.
Seattle defense isn't that good, Omar. Their offense is world class. Their defense is okay. So that wouldn't be a bad landing spot.
To me, I like Chan Gailey from the standpoint. If you look at what Chan Gailey delivered in his he turned the New York Jets into the 10th best offense in the NFL. And they had Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's it. Chris Ivory. I think he's able to get the best out of the talent that he has. The problem is he's got to get comfortable with the talent he has and comfortable with the weaponry and create plays that gets him in favorable matchups. And right now, he'll openly admit he's still learning his personnel. So I would hope that Dolphin fans and the media, including you and Seth can give them a month before you pull the plug on Ryan Fitzpatrick and go with Tua the savior. Now, lo and behold, do we expect Tua to come and save the season? No, but I think that this season can still be saved, and I'm committed for the next month to see what Ryan Fitzpatrick.
At 0-2, the season can be saved. At 0-3, save to what? What do you save to 500? Say what are you talking?
To keep it competitive in December.
Huh?
To keep it competitive in December. To be in the mix.
Be in what mix? Mix for what? 500? What are you talking? The
Playoffs.
For a playoff spot?
Playoffs, Dave. Playoffs.
Playoffs, Omar.
Playoffs.
And look, at 0-3, playoffs are a distant dream for this team. At 1-2, you're alive. Yeah. So this, and I hate to put it on a Thursday night game. You don't know between the injuries from last game or just soreness to preparation and all that. It's Thursday nights are always weird games.
I'm giving it a month. You're pulling the plug at 0-3. This is crazy, Dave.
Giving it one more game, Mr. You're drawing yourself Mr. Perspective and Patience, giving it one more game. I'm only saying if 0-3. You're going to 0-4, I guess.
I'm going to 2-5, Dave. That's where I'm going at. That's where the line is from. At 2-5, I'm pulling the plug.
You just made that up, Omar, off the top of your head. That's good of you.
All right. Well, we get to the
prediction. Who you got, Omar? Who you got this week?
I think I'm going with Jacksonville, 21-20. I'll keep it a close game. I paid attention to the over on this. The line is like 48. I'm like, how the hell do these people think these two teams are going to score 48 points on a Thursday night game where players can barely, make it through the week? So to me, I'm going 21-20 Jacksonville. I just think that I haven't seen enough from this defense to get to the point where I can actually trust them.
Yeah, I'm going with the Dolphins 27-23, but it's just purely I don't want to cover an 0-3 team. I don't want to I mean, to me it's a coin flip game. I can't believe Jacksonville is 1-1 and was right there to be 2-0. They were 30-30 against Tennessee at the end. And so I can't believe they're that good, and I can't believe the Dolphins, with all they've added this offseason, are that bad. So I think this is sort of a regression to expectations game. And so I'll go with the Dolphins, what did I say, 27-23. And
yeah,
I don't want to be on that 0-3 train, Omar, and looking at down kind of already we're looking into next year.
0-3 train doesn't scare me. I'm ready to ride.
You've been on it before.
I've been on it a lot. All right. Well, we appreciate you watching X's and Omar. You can find the podcast on the Apple Podcasts. We're working on it. We're still working on it. We're trying to get it fixed, Dave. We're trying to get.
I think it's automatically downloading, from what I heard. Is that not right?
We just got it to work again. We had to give it a jump start. And you can always find X's and Omar on the Sun Sentinel's website, on the Dolphins page, or you can search for it on Twitter, #X and Omar. Dave, always a pleasure.
All right, Omar, have fun in Jacksonville.
All right. Woo. Held my computer still as I could.
Was it shaking? I couldn't get everything up there. I was having trouble with the script there when I was reading the second segment for some reason.
What